All right, everybody. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well. Although, if I'm being perfectly honest, with me knowing what I know and knowing you guys and knowing this fan base, probably not doing terribly well right now. You might be a little bit stressed out. You might be concerned, walking on eggshells a little bit. Yeah, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. And I get it. There's certainly nothing wrong with being a little bit on edge right now. And I know what is on everyone's mind at the moment, but I don't really have anything to say that I didn't say last night yet. As of me recording this video, which is very early on Thursday morning, I don't know more about Nikki Manwari than what I said yesterday. So Mike McDonald is going to do a press conference in a couple of hours here, and maybe we'll learn something there, but also maybe not. So I'm going to go ahead and not have a conversation about Eamon Wari right now because there's nothing else to say. So let's pivot to another topic for a few minutes here. All right, everybody, before we go any further into this video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about the Sleeper app. We are just about to the Super Bowl. Now would be a great time to get on Sleeper. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. Celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get scores, you can get news, you get alerts with blazing fast speed, all kinds of sports stuff. You can play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. Enjoy sports together with a community. Download the Sleeper app today. And when you do, use promo code SBN for up to $100 match on your first deposit. And also utilize the free $20 entry with no deposit required. All you have to do is make an account for that one. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper and have some fun with sports this year. Okay, so what I want to talk about in this video instead is something that doesn't really have anything to do with the Super Bowl, and to a lot of people might kind of seem relatively obvious. But technically, until now, we hadn't heard anything approaching this level of officialness. And I think this is a pretty big deal. And I think that there is a correlation to the Seahawks that is fairly strong here. So yeah, let's talk about it for a video. Maxx Crosby looking like he's not going to be a Raider when the 2026 season starts. So I got this tweet on screen here from Underdog, but the actual source is Jay Glazer. And Jay Glazer, pretty good, pretty reliable. According to him, Edge Maxx Crosby's time with the Raiders is most likely done. So if it's coming from Jay Glazer, probably credible. Now, granted, with a story like this, you do have to be a little bit careful. Even the quote itself says most likely. And it's not like this is a surprise, right? Like we know that Maxx Crosby was a not happy with the way the team treated him at the end of the season with putting him on IR when he wanted to keep playing because they wanted to preserve him from further injury, presumably so they could have a little bit more flexibility in the offseason. And we know that really angered him. So it's not really a surprise when you combine that with how bad the Raiders are and how bad the Raiders have been for most of his career. It makes a lot of sense that Crosby would probably want to go somewhere else. And the team is probably also trying to get Crosby to go somewhere else because what do they what use do they have for a player like Crosby right now who is going to be 29 I think next season, and you're in the middle of a complete rebuild. You had the worst team in the league last year, or maybe the worst team in the league. It was close. And you're starting over from square one, new coach. You've got very few foundational pieces. You've got a franchise tight end, a franchise running back, and not too much else. A guy like Crosby is not really helping you get to where you want to get to. By the time you get back to where you want to be, you are probably going to be looking at a reduced Maxx Crosby. So I think it's in the Raiders' best interests, and I think it's in Crosby's best interest. And I appreciate Glazier putting this out. And the reason why I say that is because there had been a lot of contradicting information from unknown or unverifiable sources about Crosby. Some people saying, oh, he's gone. And then you have other sources or quote unquote sources saying, No, he's too loyal. He would never leave the Raiders. Crosby's not going anywhere. And then, oh, the Raiders really want to trade him. Oh, no, the Raiders really don't want to trade him. Back and forth, back and forth. Felt like there wasn't any definitive answer out there. This is the closest thing we're going to get in all likelihood to a definitive answer until he gets traded. I did read somewhere that they think there's a pretty decent chance he's going to get traded before the draft. And like we've talked about before, we have a pretty good idea that the Seahawks have tried to trade for Crosby at least once, and some people believe it happened twice. Some people believe that the Seahawks tried to get Maxx Crosby when they were doing the Geno Smith trade last offseason, and most people that are in the know think that the Seahawks offered 2 first-round picks for Crosby at the trade deadline, and the Raiders ultimately weren't willing to do it. So there is a tremendous amount of interest on the part of the Seahawks for Maxx Crosby's services, and they may try again. So let me be very clear here, because usually when I talk about Maxx Crosby, most of the comments I get are people who don't want to trade for him, are people who are against the idea of trading for Maxx Crosby. And look, it's intimidating. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to take probably a little bit more than 2 first-round picks. And I'll get to why a little bit later. You're probably looking at like 2 first-round picks and a player of some value. Maybe 2 firsts and a third. Maybe even a little bit more than that. It's going to be a lot. But here's the thing, guys. This Seahawks team has a window right now. Clearly, they're about to play in the Super Bowl. So the window is right now. And I ask anybody out there, anybody watching this video, how else are you going to keep the window open without getting Maxx Crosby? Because look at the edge room right now. Okay, Uchenna Nwosu looks like he's kind of broken down. He had a good stretch of football earlier this year, but now he's been kind of reduced to just holding up against the run, and he really doesn't finish plays anymore. And when you look at all the injuries he's had over the last few years, I think he might just be kind of like, even though he's not old, he's kind of already, I don't want to say washed up, but past his prime. And you can either pay him $20 million next season, or you can cut him and pay him 8.5, or you can extend him. I don't think extending him's on the table. I don't want to have a $20 million cap hit for him next year. I think you're probably releasing that guy. Boye Mafe's a free agent. He didn't do much this year. I don't think you're bringing him back unless it's very cheap. And even if you do bring him back, you can't count on him to do anything for you in a 2026, because he didn't really do anything for you this year. What's gonna change? He's 27 now. He is what he is. Derek Hall, kind of the same thing. I like Derek Hall a little bit more, and he's going to be under contract. I'm sure he's going to be here unless we trade him. But I don't see a remarkable player there at this point. I just see a rotational edge, and that's about it. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be 34 next year. So you need to completely revamp the edge room with probably multiple pieces, and something in there needs to be very special. And I'm going to tell you right now, if your plan is to replenish the edge room with a rookie, that's a bad plan. Most rookie edges don't really do anything that initial season. It's very rare you draft an edge rusher that just blows up as a rookie. Like guys like Micah Parsons, very rare. Look at Derek Hall. Derek Hall's a pretty decent NFL player at this point. Remember how little he did as a rookie? He basically did nothing. He basically wasn't on the team. And even the great ones, guys like Will Anderson, he's clearly a much different player now than he was as a rookie. He was a good player as a rookie. He did good stuff. He was a nice player, but now he's one of the best edge rushers in the league. And that's Will Anderson. And I guarantee you, picking at 31 or 32 or wherever we end up picking, you are not going to get an edge rusher anywhere close to the caliber of somebody like that, or someone like a Micah Parsons. So it can't be a rookie. And then consider what Maxx Crosby is. You know, he's going to turn 29 this offseason, 29 like a week before the season starts next year. 5-time Pro Bowler, a guy who's reached double-digit sacks 4 times in his career. He is one of the rare guys that actually was very effective as a rookie from the edge rusher position. pretty much every the one recent year where he didn't get to double-digit sacks, he missed 5 games with an injury. So, you've got all this stuff going on here, 14.5 sacks, 12.5 sacks, 10 sacks in 15 games this year, mostly on bad teams. These are not good Raider teams. They don't play with the lead a lot, and it's not just sacks. Look at all these tackles for loss he gets. He's a phenomenal run defender as well. So, you're getting the whole package here, and like I just said, you're not really gonna be able to get dependable contributors in the draft at edge rusher. Like, honestly, remember Boye Mafe as a rookie, just kind of a rotational guy who was decent against the run and did a little bit as a pass rusher? That's kind of actually not the best case scenario, but it's actually a pretty decent scenario. And the guys you're gonna get at 31 or 32, like, I don't even think they're gonna give you that. So then you go to free agency, and okay, there are intriguing guys here, but is anybody anywhere close to Maxx Crosby? Maybe Trey Hendrickson, but he's 31 now. He didn't play that well last year, and to me, he is clearly nowhere near the level of a Maxx Crosby. Trey Hendrickson had to seriously sacrifice his run defense to become the elite sack artist that he is and has been in some recent years. Khalil Mack is going to turn 35 this offseason. Hassan Reddick, I don't know how much is left there. All these guys on the wrong side of 30. Joey Bosa, you want to take your chances there? Malcolm Kuntz, he's all right. I mean, I like Malcolm Kuntz, but nowhere near the Maxx Crosby level. None of these guys are stars. None of these guys are even like great starters. Maybe you can find 1 year or 2 years of great starting from Trey Hendrickson. That's like probably your best bet. Or maybe Malcolm Kuntz has a slightly late belated breakout. But these are not really the good bets. AJ Epinenza, he's okay. Dante Fowler Jr., he's going to be 32 next year. Like, what's the play here? What's the strong play? Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye might be might be pretty good. Odafe Owe, I guess. Like, to me, Odafe Owe is just kind of like a happy path version of what Boye Mafe is. I still don't think he's a star, and I don't think he ever will be a star. Looking at this list, there are good players, and I'm not saying we shouldn't sign any of them. None of these guys are going to be the number one guys in a good edge room. Maybe Kwity Paye. That's like it. Otherwise, you're just crossing your fingers that Hendrickson has a year left, Mack has a year left, Hassan Reddick has a year left when he's already shown signs that he's not all that anymore as is. You're hoping that Joey Bosa can stay healthy. And ask yourself this: if we do not have a good edge rusher room in 2026, how are we keeping this door open? How are we going to compete for a Super Bowl when our edge room is actively bad? Because that is what it is at that point. 34-year-old DeMarcus Lawrence, Derek Hall, rookie X, even say it's the Texas Tech guy, what's his name, David Bailey, which is kind of pie in the sky anyway, and Malcolm Kuntz. It's not cutting it. That's not good enough. That's not as good as it is this year, I don't think. Maybe it's about as good, but you are definitely going to lose something going from what you got this year from a 33-year-old kind of rejuvenated DeMarcus Lawrence. I don't think he's going to be able to rush the passer the way that he did this year, next year. I don't think that's realistic. I think you're kind of getting that last great year of rushing the passer from DeMarcus Lawrence. And honestly, as good as he's been, this team is really kind of overextending him, I think, by having him be their featured edge rusher. That was not the plan. I think the plan was for Nwosu to be playing at a little bit of a higher level right now, him being the main guy, and then you've got DeMarcus Lawrence for early downs, and then you got guys like Mafe and Hall as kind of your pass rushers, the young guys off the bench who play on passing downs, and that hasn't really worked out, and they've had to put a lot on Lawrence's shoulders. So, to me, I look at all this, I do the math, and I'm just like, it's Maxx Crosby, or you're crossing your fingers on the edge rusher room next year. You're kind of wishing on a lucky star. What if that ends up being the thing that costs you the opportunity to repeat? What isn't it worth moving heaven and earth to give yourself a chance to repeat? Or if we do lose on Sunday, then the opportunity to get back and win again? I think so. I know it's expensive. I know it's going to be a lot, but these guys too, right? I mean, Trey Hendrickson is not going to sign a 1-year deal. He's going to be a very expensive multi-year deal, and you're going to be left holding a bag if he's a different player now because he is over 31 years old. Maybe you can get a guy like Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa on a 1-year deal, but that's because those guys come with big risks. Khalil Mack's going to be 35. Joey Bosa, I know he's only going to be 31, but he can't stay healthy. It was kind of a miracle that he stayed as healthy as he did for Buffalo this year. And the draft pick thing, look, this is subjective, but this is not a good draft class. If we have to give up our picks in this class, I don't think we should care that much. Now, giving up a draft pick for 2027, that's different. I don't feel great about that. Wish we didn't have to do that, but you do have to break some eggs to make an omelet. And I think this is an omelet worth having. And by the way, I know that somebody might talk about Myles Garrett. You're not going to get Myles Garrett unless he really, really rips up that contract he has with Cleveland. Maxx Crosby signed a contract with the Raiders, an extension last offseason that is very pliable. I don't think Garrett has the same pliability there. So Garrett would need to completely redo his deal with Cleveland, give a lot of money back to the Browns, and then you'd have to trade for him, and then you'd have to give him a new contract, and it's going to probably end up being more than what you're giving up for Crosby, and you're getting an older player that may not, in my mind, may not necessarily fit in as well on a 3-4 defense. And I know we don't really play a lot of 3-4, but the edges stand up most of the time. So there's not really a lot of other great plays. Like, I guess the other play would be to stack, right? You could go, okay, we're going to sign Malcolm Kuntz, and we're going to sign Kwity Paye, and we're going to also throw in a guy like a Khalil Mack. Or, well, maybe not Khalil Mack, but maybe we go get somebody like a Leonard Floyd if we think that guy has a little bit of juice left. And then we're just going to rotate the edge rushers like crazy, and maybe we can make it work. But I feel like this edge room needs a bona fide star. It needs somebody that can just go out there and win falling out of bed. And to me, Maxx Crosby is one of your only plays, right? Like I said, the only guy I see here that might be that kind of guy is Kwity Paye, and Crosby to me is clearly better. So that's what I'm thinking right now. Now, I will say this. Everybody's going to go after Crosby. Niners, Rams, I could see the Cowboys, I could see the Bills, I could see pretty much any contending or semi-contending team except for like the Broncos. I could see any of those teams go for Crosby. So there will be a bidding war. You may have to overpay to win that bidding war. But so it goes. And I'm going to say it again. If that's what it takes to keep the window open for 2026, like imagine if we're sitting here 10 months from now and we've got this great team, we got this great offense. Let's say we nail the offensive coordinator hire and the offense keeps chugging, and you've got Ken Walker and you've got JSN and you've got the improved offensive line. You've got this great linebacker core. You've got the great interior guys with Murphy and Williams. You're still getting decent stuff from DeMarcus. You've got maybe the best secondary in football, but you know you're a step short of where you need to be because you don't have the edge rushers. Would you rather be in that spot, or would you rather give up a bunch of draft capital to go get somebody that will make sure that does not happen? I think it's a pretty easy choice. This is one of those times where you go for it. All right, this video has been way too long, but I did want to get into this here because I think there's a lot of gun shyness around the idea of giving up a huge haul for Maxx Crosby, but I don't know what the play is otherwise. Bring back Nwosu next year and just hope that he gets it together, that he heals up in the offseason and he's the Uchenna Nwosu from 2022. I mean, I guess that's a play, but that's not the bet I'm trying to make here. And no, I don't think betting on rookies is a good idea. And I just don't. Again, Kwity Paye might be the one guy that I would make an exception for because he's relatively young. He should have years left and he's very good. But even then, Crosby's clearly better. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. I know this is a tough one. And I understand that people are a little bit hesitant to do stuff like this, but in my mind, if you don't do this, you're going to have to kind of pull a rabbit out of your hat at the edge rusher position. All right, go Hawks.